Teachers at Reddit, what is wrong with modern education? Critical thinking has taken so much of a backseat I'm wondering if it's still in the car. Tests, technology and an overcrowded syllabus. I've had to shut down interesting discussions because we need to progress through the topic. We put tests and tech before teaching kids to actually think. One unmentioned fact is giant class sizes. Who the hell thinks 45 kids in a room, ranging from gifted to special ed, is a good idea? In a 53-minute class, I can barely teach a lesson then touch base with everyone while they're working. It's insane. We are told through our entire training that kids have different brains. They can use their talents to show their knowledge in a zillion different ways. Everyone is individual, they say. No two kids think the same way. Then we give them all a standardized test and the government uses the data as fact to rank schools, teachers, and all sorts of bullet. It makes zero sense and drives me up the ducking wall. The ducking tests. I have to spend my entire year teaching to the test. You think that's just a phrase? It's not. My entire purpose is to get the kids to pass the end of course exam. Kids who don't speak English and who are reading 5 grade levels below where they should be are expected to pass a test that is so completely unfair that it makes no sense at all. If they don't pass, my pay is deducted. I can lose my job. I am rated as ineffective, no matter why they don't pass. If a kid misses 100 days of school, I am to blame when that student doesn't pass the test. I hate the test. Testing. Using data from the tests to modify your teaching as opposed to modifying the test. Is an internationally standardized test really the best way to assess someone's understanding? Parents. Most of them think we have only their child in the class. Us. Yes, we are accountable and responsible for a lot. But we deserve some sort of work-life balance. Pay. Teachers today are so qualified, but our pay doesn't reflect that. Schools, not public, using test and inspection data to increase fees, thereby stressing teachers to do everything else but teach well. Documentation, class display, etc. on inspection days. There's a few, but by far the biggest emo is the manpower. If you hired 5x as many teachers and cut the classes from 30 students down to 6, I bet the majority of teachers would feel like they can get most kids through the state tests even as they are now. And just to add to that point, every 4 years we get some duck nut politician who has no background in education, claiming he's gonna fix education by doing something like throwing an iPad in every student's hand. You know, cause kids love technology. Of course that's the key to fixing public education. It's so simple, when in reality, kids love iPads, but they want to watch videos and play games on them, not do math problems. It's really backwards. Source, math teacher in NY for a decade, left a year ago for greener pastures. We expect too much of teachers and pay them too little. Laws regarding teaching are being made by people who have no idea what education and an education system entails. Lawmakers have a political focus instead of an educational one. I teach elementary school. Kids need more than 20 minutes of brain break each day. Apparently where I teach did research and discovered recess led to a loss of instructional time. You know what else does? 6-year-olds literally not being able to sit for 2 minutes when they come to me for music because they've been doing work for 2 hours with no break. Members of the Board of Education in many municipalities often have zero teaching experience, yet feel qualified to dictate to teachers what should be included in the curriculum. The board's overreach extends beyond subjects and priorities to methods as well. Some board members even attend classes and critique a teacher's performance, even though they've never taught a class themselves. Elementary school teacher. The kids arriving to kindergarten are coming to school so damaged. Every classroom in our school has young kids with serious behavior problems. Not just talking out, I'm saying throwing desks and chairs and stabbing people. Scissors behaviors. There is no follow through, no support, no parent accountability, and the one social worker in the school can't possibly handle the caseload. If you ask for help, the problem is immediately turned back on you. What strategies have you tried? Where's your documentation of your modifications? And on and on. A sticker chart isn't helping a child born into crisis who needs some real support. Meanwhile, the teachers spend hours a day managing outrageous behaviors while the quiet kids look on with wide eyes hoping to learn something. The lack of accountability for students and how detrimental it is to them growing up to become adults. We have so many students that have not been allowed to fail. Either mom and dad come to the rescue or the educator takes the fall. I teach high school, and it's the first time for these kids that they are even allowed to fail. They have been told they are the best and brightest their entire lives. When they encounter hardships, they have no idea how to cope. They end up becoming very stressed, anxious and sometimes depressed. Because of this, modern education, at least in my area, has been trying to take away stress factors instead of teaching kids how to manage them. It's so bad that next year we may not even be allowed to give students anything below a 50%, possibly even for work they do not turn in. The thing that would improve it the most is proper parental involvement, not helicoptering, but parents reinforcing at home and expecting their children to learn. This can't be legislated, it's cultural. The problems stem from top-down rules, no matter how well intended, whether that's coming from the administration or the union. Excellent teachers who know how to make learning happen with students who have the attention span of a gnat need more latitude, not more silly programs or tactics that administration wants to try out or safeguards that care more about a teacher's retirement than the student's education. The best way to reward them is not to promote them into administration, but keep them in the classroom where they can make the most impact with what they're gifted and pay them the salary of the administration position to which you wanted to promote them. Where everything is made up, and the points don't matter. Grades. I want them gone. What an A means in one class compared to another class can be totally different. I'd love to have it skills based and have 3 categories: developing, meets and exceeds. That way the parents know exactly what their child can do or needs to improve. It removes the "can my child have extra credits to bring up their grade?" question and grade inflation. At some point we started trying to sterilize education. We wanted kids to know more and more, but we also trusted the decency of humans less. So the result is teachers who are held to saint-like standards being expected to raise children, make them moral citizens, and spoon-feed them standardized knowledge. Teachers are encouraged to be robots now. You can't connect or be a meaningful part of a student's life without seeming wrong. Meanwhile, we are trying to turn students into data points. It just doesn't work that way. Besides testing parents that everyone else has already said, the overemphasis on technology. My school gives every single child a laptop and we are expected to use them at least a few times a week. In theory, we're using the limitless potential of the internet to enrich our learning. In practice, they spend all class playing games, as our web filter only stops us teachers who care to follow the rules, or googling answers. And while I do my best to patrol and stop this, I'm one person versus 25 plus children determined to do nothing. Pushing students to pursue a degree out of the strict idea it will get them a well-paying job. Never mind how much you like the field. Never mind that you may lack the simple functionality that is required to be employed in that field. Never mind that you actually hate the field and it's a soul-sucking experience to go to a job you hate, but hey, it's your livelihood. STEM educators can be pretty bad about making STEM students think that only STEM degrees are the best and non-STEM people are just a lesser species. Don't even get me started how they completely discount liberal arts degrees and think creative types are lepers. The people making the rules at the legislative level are not teachers. They see shiny new research that promises results and mandate that this is the way it should be for everyone now. The breadth of school situations and needs across the country is massive, and it's the same case even within a school. I teach algebra II, and it's basically a required course, but not all of my students should be taking it. I have very smart students who will go on to do just fine in life who will have no use for systems of equations, but it's on the standardized tests, and those are just about all the state has time to look at when evaluating schools. In the US at least, the problem with modern education is the integration of the American political system on educational policy. Why do we have so much testing? No Child Left Behind formed that monster. Why do we have so little student accountability? Because schools and districts need to show student achievements to get federal funds, so they fake it. What's worse than either of these is that we don't stick to any guiding educational philosophy. Every time a new person or party is elected, everything we do gets revamped. Because of that, there is very little consistency. Students graduate from high school having been pulled in a myriad of pedagogical directions without getting depth or sophistication in any of them. The parents and the students and the system. Apart from that, it's great. I just got fired. Education is now a cash for grades business. The department said student satisfaction is more important than learning. Incredibly, they actually put that in writing. I'm right now a student, but I think this quote from my teacher is fitting to this thread. You know when a system is broken when they think giving laptops to all students will resolve magically our education system. Spain. Edit. Grammar. I'm a tutor, so obviously I have selection bias since I only really see the richer kids with more motivation, passing along kids before they actually understand the material. It's so infuriating seeing people who can do calculus perfectly but don't know how to work with fractions. There's just too much pressure on teachers to not fail kids even when they really should. Maybe just grade inflation in general. In Ontario, Canada, it's the amount of problems the teacher is supposed to single-handedly fix. Everything falls on the teacher. I have 27 grade 4/5s with 27 different problems and needs. But I spend most of my day on 3 or 4 of them whose main issue is that no one has ever asked them to be responsible for themselves. So I have to constantly put out fires all day long while ignoring the kids who are ready to learn. I wish I could have an extra adult in the room whose job was to work with the kids who aren't ready to learn in a class environment. I go to sleep hating the fact that I have to ignore most of my class all day. Not enough teachers training for teachers. Pay is way too low to recruit professional people with master's degrees. It takes years for most teachers to get good. Some sort of multi-year apprenticeship program where they're paid but not fully leading their own classroom would help. So many teachers don't really care and just do it as a job, which is fine. Not everyone needs passion to do their work, but it leads to a bad experience for the kids when their teacher is phoning it in. And then those teachers come to me wondering why X student is awesome in my class, but fails disrupts theirs. And students come to me complaining and I have to walk the line between supporting the kid and being professional about my colleague. Former teacher here. I see a lot of great answers in here that I agree with. Emphasis on testing, and poorly designed tests that do not measure the right metrics. Low pay, respect for teachers. Too easy to become a teacher, thus inflating the pool with low quality teachers. Laws made by people with no knowledge of the profession, etc. But ultimately, the system, in America, is not designed to create thinkers. Creative, analytical, or otherwise. Our system pushes rote skills and then wonders why no one can solve problems. Common Core, whether you like it or not, is a step in the right direction in this regard. But it was rolled out poorly with minimal training for many teachers. Many districts just handed a new curriculum to teachers instead of prepare them for the paradigm shift in instructional methods and expectations. Was poorly implemented by teachers who thought they needed to score students on obscure ways of solving things, and subsequently ate enough bad PR for most people to not be willing to give it a chance. It's not the way I learned to do addition. In fear of rambling too long here, I'll end by linking one of my favorite videos discussing this topic, an animated clip of a TED Talk by Sir Ken Robinson. It's customer service. College in Canada. You would probably call that high school. Or college. Whatever. You have to answer every student email in 48 hours. Most of them are meaningless. A few examples. I didn't prepare my presentation because I broke up with my boyfriend, so I need 2 extra weeks to recover. Hey, it's my sister's birthday, so it's okay if I don't come to class. You will just have to change the attendance sheet. It usually takes about 1 hour a day and it's never about the lesson.